my name is Cici, and today we are going to be talking about this blanket. Now, this blanket and I have a very long history together, and I am finally putting in the last stitches. So, as a little bit of a New Year's video, and to just recount the final few stitches of this blanket, I'm gonna talk about the whole entire process of making this blanket. So I started making this blanket back in fall of 2021, I think. It was my senior year and I was just getting back into crocheting. It was absolutely sweltering in my dorm room, and for some reason I thought that that was a good time to start crocheting again. I had known how to crochet since I was probably about 12 years old, but I never actually really used crochet that often up until, of course, I started crocheting again in senior year of college. So I was sitting there in my dorm room, and it was a very unconventional dorm room. There were like paintings all over the wall that people had put there throughout the years. It was a serious challenge to color match. So I thought, you know what, for decoration, let's just make a rainbow blanket. So I went to the yarn store later that day, picked out all of the yarns that I needed, and got to work on it. And that was one of the better points of my senior year, actually my entire college career. My social life was flourishing. It was the first time that I had been back on campus and learning in person in probably about a year or two at that point. I also had some semblance of a love life, and I had a fantastic new hobby that I really enjoyed picking back up again. Things were really going great at that time, and progress on the blanket was astronomical. Let's just take a second to appreciate this absolute monstrosity of crocheting madness. So I am gonna see if I can finish assembling it tonight. It is currently 10:30. I don't think I'm gonna be able to do it by midnight, but we're in the home stretch.
So, you know what I mean.
By around January next year, I pretty much had all of the squares that I wanted to complete done. So I stitched all of the squares together and then never got around to doing the border or tucking in the final little edges. I didn't realize it at the time, but even though everything in my life was going pretty gosh diddly darn well, there was a kind of a lack of vibrancy, if that makes any sense. Like, nothing in my life was going wrong, but everything still felt a little bit dull and lifeless. Little did I know that my inability to address it at the time when things were good would mean that it only got worse when things were bad. Later that spring, everything started to go completely haywire. Blueberries. 800. I don't know. But you guys already saw that. When things went bad, I kind of just stopped crocheting for a little bit. I just couldn't quite bring myself to pick up the needle and the yarn and just make something, anything. And in May of 2022, I moved out of the room that was the original inspiration for this blanket, still having not completed it. It was rough for a little while, and it took me a second to get back to the point where I actually picked up the needle and yarn again. And I did, eventually, though I still feel a distinct lack of vibrancy in my life. Like, everything around me in my life has changed, but I'm still very much in the same emotional place that I was a year ago. So, my new goal for this year is to try and find a little bit more vibrancy in my life. And it's been going pretty well so far. Crocheting is a lot of fun for me. I've started reading again, and not just for school. This book, I haven't made it that far into this book, and it's kind of a slow burn so far, but I just have to know what happens. I'm like, yay farish through the book. And I thought that I hated reading. I don't know why I thought I hated reading, but this book and The Hobbit are just day after day proving me wrong. Aside from that, I'm trying to travel more and visit friends and also make videos that I'm passionate about. Which smooth segue leads me in to you guys. I wanted to take a second to thank you guys for a fantastic year on YouTube. My videos have been getting a lot more views this year. My subscriber count has basically doubled, maybe even tripled. I need to actually do math. And I've actually been able to crank out a good amount of videos, except for, of course, in spring, but we all know what happened there. I think that this is the last video of the year that I'm going to make, though. It feels like a good place to end it. We are finally finishing this blanket, which, irony of all ironies, it's becoming a symbol of more vibrancy. So I hope you join me for the next year and try and find a little bit more vibrancy in your life as well. I'm actually not quite done with this blanket. This ramble is taking a little bit less time than I anticipated. But this clip right here is the finished blanket. I mean, I absolutely adore it, but I'm also a bit biased because it took me like a year and a half to make this thing. But yeah, I guess that's it for this video and for this year. I hope that everyone stays warm through this winter, finds a little bit more vibrancy in their life, and until next year, I will see you next time. Bye!